Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. The uncle first looked at the spiritual fruit on display, and only said that your spiritual fruit is quite fresh, then turned to look at the meat. It seems that the uncle is not very interested in the spirit fruit. But this time, the meat of the spirit beast is the big one. Even if the spirit fruit is sold slowly, as long as most of the meat of the spirit beast is sold, then this time it will be profitable. The meat boxes on the car have been opened. 2 boxes are full of spirit beast meat, and the other box is half of spirit beast meat and half of common beast meat. The spirit beast meat in these 3 boxes belong to different kinds. If anyone bought them together, they would not be afraid of eating too much of one kind of meat and getting greasy. The uncle stepped forward to carefully inspect the meat in the 3 boxes, and nodded from time to time, looking quite satisfied. Xingchen also stepped forward and introduced, "Grandpa, the goods I bought are all very fresh. I just brought this car back from Dolanxing. It didn't even take an hour to land. I just put it on the stall, will send you a message, and there is no delay." 550. The uncle didn't even turn his head, just said, "I saw that although your goods are not many, the advantage is that they are quite fresh. It seems that after I bought your goods last time, you bought them again. It must be because I have a spaceship, otherwise I would sell it from other people, so I can't have such a fresh one." Yeah. I have a small spaceship, so I sell the goods by myself. It's just that the ship is small, and I can't ship much every time. I can't even get a truckload of goods, so I can earn living expenses. Although your products are good this time, there are too few types of spirit beast meat. There are only 3 types. Hey! I will have to go to some stores to find more spirit beast meat later, sir. Master, there are 2 or 3 kinds of this spirit beast meat that you can eat instead. What are you dreaming of with so many varieties? You can't find 10 small species of spirit beast meat over there and eat them in turn for 10 days. Hey! It doesn't matter at other times. It doesn't matter if you have spirit beast meat or not. The problem is that today we have a deputy gymnasium master celebrating his birthday. Although there is no need to hold any big celebrations, a relatively high-end banquet is still good to put on. This requires a good banquet, so of course there must be fresh spirit beast meat. Normally, there are some people selling this stuff, and no one keeps it. I was informed last night that I need to get more spirit beast meat for the banquet today, so I'm a little nervous at this time. As a result, I took a look at the trading area today, and there are no spirit beast meat sellers left. Even if there is some stock, the quality of the meat is not very fresh. I only found out after asking them about those merchants. Their inventory is all cleared, and I just wait for some trade fair to buy new goods and come back to sell them. Just now, I went around in circles for a long time. I didn't buy any useful spirit beast meat. I was in a hurry. I didn't hear that you had meat, so I ran here quickly. Fortunately, there are 3 kinds of fresh spirit beast meat in the goods you bought, and it can be regarded as a good deal when you buy them back. Stardust. The spirit beast meat here is out of stock. Can the goods I bought be sold at a high price? Xingchen was beautiful in his heart. Lordine looked up and saw a kid on the car again. What's in that little box of yours? So something worth shipping back and selling? Is it something good? Master, there is also spirit beast meat in that box. I bought it for myself to eat. Huh? Eat it yourself? You can enjoy it enough. Let me see what good things you have left for yourself. After the uncle finished speaking, he opened the small box. It doesn't matter if you look at it, because you are so happy to slap your thigh. Ha! 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 Little guy, I didn't expect you to have so many good products in stock. Don't eat this box of meat yourself. I want it, sir. With these kinds of spirit beast meat, you can make up 8 or 9 of them. It's a decent dish, and others will not be picky about the quality of the banquet. Master, I really keep these spirit beast meat for myself. If you buy it, I won't have anything to eat. You don't have anything to eat. You have your own spaceship. Go and buy some and come back. It won't be a big deal. I'm in a hurry here, otherwise I won't bother to ask for this little meat. That's it, this time I won't bargain with you, and the last discount will be 3 points. Hurry up, sir, I'm in a hurry, hurry up and settle the score. Stardust. Master, what do you want? Do you want these 3 boxes of meat? Do you want a few boxes of these spiritual fruits? They are also very fresh. Don't be silly, I want all the goods you have here, you should settle the score quickly. Alright, I'll settle this. Xingqian wiped a few drops of sweat from his forehead, and hurriedly began to settle accounts. There is no way, the customer is the uncle, and the uncle is the uncle, so I can't afford it. This time, Xingqian brought over 2 boxes full of spirit beast meat, and the price of these 2 large boxes of meat at Duo Linxing was 300,000 lails a box. On Amaya's side, the price of each box of spirit beast meat is 435,000 rals. Although the 2 types of meat are different, the price is similar. The 3rd box of spirit beast meat is only about 220 caddies. The price of this kind of spirit beast meat is slightly lower than the 2 kinds just now, but it can also be sold for 200,000 rals here in Amaya, plus the meat in the box. The 2,000 dollars for common animal meat is still around 200,000. The price of the 2 bags of spiritual food is relatively transparent. When I bought it at the beginning, it was 8,000 rals, but it can be sold for 11,000 rals in Amaya. The spiritual food Xingqian bought this time is not the same as last time, and the price is quite different, but he can still make some money. 60 boxes of spiritual fruits cost 370,000 rals, and they can be sold for 490,000 rals in Amaya. There is also the small box of assembled spirit beast meat, which cost 20,000 rals when I bought it, but it can be sold for 30,000 rals here. The total selling price of these goods was 1.6 million rals, and there was a little bit of change, so Stardust erased it for the sake of settlement. Calculated according to the conditions of the 3-point discount last time, the uncle needs to pay 1,552,000 rals this time. Well, the mantissa of the 2,000 rals and the Stardust were also erased by the uncle, which is considered a gift from the uncle for buying so many goods. The uncle is still satisfied with Xingqian's settlement. Not only is there a 3-point discount, but he also wiped out several thousand rals. But wouldn't this be a good time to chat? The uncle wants to send back the spirit beast meat as soon as possible. So the uncle hurriedly took out Lal to pay the bill, and at the same time urged Xingqian to arrange for the robot to be loaded into the car. Uncle is a big customer. Since he was in such a hurry, Xingqian didn't dare to neglect. Here he was watching the uncle counting the money, and on the other side, he had arranged for the younger brothers to load the goods into the uncle's own car and lost them. In less than a few minutes, the transfer of money and goods between Xingqian and the uncle has been completed. The business was done again, and within 20 minutes of Li crossing 3.2 Chen putting the goods on the stall, his goods were sold out. Xingqian was about to watch the uncle leave, standing on the last post of a businessman. Before the uncle got into the car, he turned around and said, "When you come back from the next shipment, send me a message first, so as not to have to come here to set up a stall to sell, don't forget." "Master, I shipped 2 trips to sell the goods, and I didn't sleep well in between. I haven't had a good rest for nearly 7 days. The goods will be sold out. I have to rent a place to live and have a good rest for a few days." "You want to rent a place to live?" "Uncle, I have it. The rent is not expensive. You can go back and have a look." The uncle had already sat in the car after talking about this meeting, and before leaving, he also told Xingqian that he would send him a message soon, and that he was in a hurry to go back to deliver the goods, and he didn't have time to take him to the place where he lived. Just like that, Xingqian watched the uncle leave his empty booth in a hurry. That's right, the deal is considered a success. After Xingqian came here, Amiya's goods were sold out within half an hour, and she was in a pretty good mood. The goods have been emptied, and the stall should also be withdrawn. Xingqian asked the younger brothers to pack the suspension car and prepare to leave. "But before leaving, I have to say hello to the guard brother." Seeing Xingchen coming over, the little head guard was a little speechless. He watched Xingchen's small stall from the time it was put up until it was sold out. How long has it been since you set up this stall, and the goods are sold out? I feel like you're just putting it here for fun. Brother guard, I'm running out of stock, and I have an old customer to patronize, so it's too early to finish, otherwise I will have to toss for a few days. Xingchen was also a little embarrassed, but the first time it took a little longer to set up the stall. These 2 times, it took half a day. This second time to set up a stall is indeed a bit of a joke. This stall has only been open for more than 10 minutes, and the ground under my buttocks has not yet warmed up, so the goods are gone. But it doesn't matter how long it takes to set up a stall, it's all about making money. In just 10 minutes, the goods in Xing Kong's hands doubled his profit. Although it is not as much as the last batch of goods that doubled the cost, but because of the 25 more cost of buying the goods, the money earned this time is 300,000 rals more than last time. Xingchen chatted with the big brother guard for a few more words, and then left. The elder guard here also left a message for him. This booth is reserved for Xingchen. He can come over to set up a stall anytime he wants. Naturally, Xingchen was very grateful. Although it cost money every time he set up a stall, this location is really good. What's easy to say is not only that this location is at the corner of the passage, which is more eye-catching and can be seen at a glance, but also that the feng shui of this stall is relatively good. Otherwise, how could his stall be cleared in a short time every time? Goods. The owner of the neighbor's stall next to this stall is also a bit greedy for Xingchen's position. He has noticed that Xingchen has set up a stall these 2 times. Who wouldn't be envious of being able to ship so quickly? Whoosh! But later, when he contacted the guards and wanted to set up a stall at this location, the guards didn't care about him. It's not that the guards didn't accept gifts so he wouldn't let him display them. The problem is that he has too many goods. There are dozens or hundreds of cars. Once they are put on the target, they are too big. Although these guards are in charge of the market, yes, but such a big stall is tied up next to the cordon, so it's no wonder that the high-level executives in the market don't ask questions. So the boss tried hard for a long time, but he didn't succeed in setting up a stall here. Xingchen took his younger brothers to the market management office first and handed over the stall sign. The manager also asked Xingchen if 3 days is enough. Don't try to put it on for a few more days. He thought that Xingchen's business was not easy to do, so he wanted to get rid of people. But Stardust has already finished his work twice, and now the goods are emptied, and there is still a knitting wool, so naturally he has to hand in the sign and go to his own business. After completing the procedures in the market, Xingchen went to pick up the spaceship again. This time he made a lot of money, and he was going to replace some missing parts and those in poor working condition on the spaceship with brand new ones. Stardust conducts business among the stars, and the most important thing is the safety performance of the spacecraft. I was poor before and had no choice, so I used so many second-hand spaceship accessories. Now that I have made a lot of money, I still have to consider the safety issues when flying in the future. It was the same shop that sold spaceship accessories last time. Stardust drove the spaceship and came here again, but this time to buy new accessories, so the receptionist was replaced by another younger supervisor. The supervisor heard that Stardust wanted to buy a batch of brand new accessories, so he enthusiastically introduced the various products in his store. The spaceship accessories here are probably due to the more demand for civilian spaceships, so the spare parts inventory for small spaceships like Stardust is relatively complete. Most of the varieties that were lacking in Stardust replacement parts last time are in stock here, and there are several manufacturers of the stock, and the prices are also high and low, obviously divided into grades. However, the price is not very accurate. Anyway, the quality of the accessories is good or bad, because some spaceships are luxury goods. Although its performance is not much higher than other ships, but its appearance is extremely gorgeous, anyway. It is all kinds of eye-catching, of course, the price is much higher. Such a spaceship, if you want to replace the parts, the money you need to spend is correspondingly much higher. Originally, the shell of Stardust's small spaceship is also this type of spaceship, but Stardust is obviously not the owner of luxury goods. His requirements are of course practical and durable, and the price must also be considered. So this time when replacing accessories, Stardust also selected the most suitable spaceship accessories for himself from the various information in this store. There are a lot of second-hand parts on the small spaceship, and Stardust can't replace them this time, so he gave priority to replacing the most critical and important parts. One is the spacecraft engine. The engine of this spaceship was exchanged with people in the junk star. Although many parts inside were replaced with better ones, the engine itself did not match this small spaceship. In a small horse-drawn cart. This makes it take longer for the spaceship to accelerate and decelerate each time on the Stardust shelf, and the sailing time is longer. Another system component that needs to be replaced is the life support component. This set of accessories is also the original combination of the waste star. Although it can be used, the stability is naturally not so good. Stardust sometimes feels uncomfortable during the voyage, and this is the result of the unstable life support system of the 580. For the sake of safety in the future, this replacement will all be replaced with new ones. After Xingchen finished selecting the types and brands of accessories he needed, the supervisor who received them calculated the price. The engine of the spaceship is an engine produced by a famous factory, and it is full of power, even better than the original engine of the small spaceship Stardust. Of course, this price is also very high. An engine costs Stardust 58 square Lars. The other life support system is also produced by a famous factory, suitable for the small spaceship of Stardust, and it cost Stardust 217,000 Rals. The two sets of system accessories cost Stardust nearly 800,000 Rals. However, the second-hand accessories replaced by Stardust can also be sold to this shop at a discount. At this time, the accessories on the Stardust ship have not been dismantled, and no one else can estimate the value, so it is hard to say how much Stardust will have to pay the bill in the end. Replacing the engine is a big job, and such a big accessory, Stardust, cannot be taken away, so it can only be replaced at this shipyard. Fortunately, the shipyard probably made a lot of money by selling the engine, so they didn't charge Stardust any other fees for replacing the engine at their shipyard. The shipyard also helped change the life support system, which was considered a discount for Stardust to spend a lot of money. Taking advantage of the time when the ship repair yard was replacing the engine and other accessories, Xingchen sent a message to the uncle's number, which meant asking the uncle to write to himself after he was busy, talking about renting a house. When the old man left, he specifically explained this matter, so Xingchen naturally had to go to the old man to have a look. Regardless of whether he will rent a house from the uncle or not, since the uncle said this, Xingchen can't put it aside, otherwise it will make the uncle unhappy, and then he will lose the customer of the uncle next time he sells goods. Of course, when it comes to renting a house, you can't put all your hopes on the uncle's side. Xingchen still has to check the renting market on Amiya's side. If it is suitable, it is also possible for Stardust to buy a house here, as long as the price is acceptable. Stardust made Da Huang connect to Amiya's information network with the previous number. Although the information network here is not as rich as on Earth, and various information are distributed randomly, it is okay to check some basic things. After spending tens of Lars for information, Xingchen found out about the rental situation here. On the Amaya planet, if you just rent a room that can live in people, and there are no other requirements, you only need 2,000 or 3,000 Rals per month for an Amaya. This price is around the city, closer to the city. Because of the convenient transportation, there are all kinds of shops in these areas, and it is convenient to do everything, so the prices are higher. If you don't care about the distance from the location to the city, then the cost of renting a house will be lower, and you can rent it for 600 or 700 Rals. But these houses are not suitable for Stardust to rent, because he still has a spaceship to berth. On this planet, the cost of parking a single spaceship, even a small spaceship, is not low. Near urban areas, the rental fee for mooring a small airship is about 7,000 to 10,000 Rals per Amaya month. Although this fee is quite high, Stardust can still accept it. However, because such an area requires a large area for parking spaceships, the population is small, and various robbery incidents are prone to occur. It is not very safe to park the spacecraft here. There is no insurance company here, and if your spaceship is damaged, it can still compensate you. It is all bad luck. Merchants who rent out space to park spaceships are only renting out space, and don't care about other things, so there is no chance of Stardust, but I really don't want to park spaceships here. Of course, the berthing point in the Shilin business district here can also dock spaceships. It only costs a few hundred rals for 3 days, which is quite cheap. However, the low parking fee here is to take care of the merchants who come here for business. In addition, this place is far away from the urban area. If Stardust wants to live in the urban area, if he parks the spaceship here, some people will run away. It is possible to spend several hours on the road. Of course, on such a large planet, there is also a suitable area to rent Stardust and park the spaceship safely. It's just that the rent is much higher. Generally, it starts at 20,000 lars, and there is no upper limit. Because the houses that can park small spaceships and are also very safe are usually places like the good villas on the Earth. Stardust can't afford such a place at the moment, and he doesn't know how long he will stay here. If the cost is too high, it's obviously not worth it. In addition, there are some places, such as on the ice field near the cold zone, near the desert, and on the Gobi stalls, there are some houses that can not only park spaceships, but also live in people. There has never been a danger in the past. But such a place, considering the environment, is obviously not very suitable for people to live in for a long time. Xingchen came to the planet Amaya to earn some money, train his body well, and try to upgrade a few levels to reach the Earth level. In this case, it will be easy to mix between the stars in the future. If he had to stay in an environment like a desert ice field, it would be a real pain. He came here for training, not to suffer. After looking around, there is still no suitable place. At this moment, the uncle sent a reply letter, to the effect that his things have not been delivered to the place, and he is still on the way. After about an hour, he will finish his work, and then let Xingchen go to a city called Mingxinchuan nearby. There is a Shinkoa Budokan where he waits for Stardust. The coordinates of the meeting place are also attached at the end. Xingchen checked the information of Xinchuan Budokan on the internet. This is a relatively large training venue, covering an area of more than 30 square kilometers. At its peak, there were scenes where more than 80,000 students were taught to train together at the same time. Now the number of students taught here is much less, but there are still more than 30,000 people training here. His 30,000 students don't count young children and teenagers together. According to the division of strength and age, these 30,000 students should be at the stage of high school and university. Such students, as long as they have completed their studies and graduated, they are at least prefecture-level fighters. Think about the annual graduation season. Thousands of prefecture-level combat forces come out of the Budokan, and then disperse to all walks of life. It's actually nothing. This is a very prosperous star field, and the students who study and train here are not only people from the planet Amaya. Parents with good family conditions on the surrounding planets will always send their children with some potential to be trained on planets with better cultivation resources. This has made the number of students on the planet Amaya, who can cultivate to the strength above the Earth level, increase many times. So it's not surprising that there are so many prefecture-level fighters in each issue. After checking the information, Xingchen felt a little better. Here I sent a message back to my uncle, to the effect that it will take an hour or two for him to repair the spaceship here, and when it is repaired, he will go over there to meet the uncle. After replying to the message, Stardust is waiting here for the replacement parts of the spaceship. There are more robot helpers in the ship repair yard here, so it doesn't take too much time to replace the engine and other accessories, which is much shorter than Stardust expected. After the replacement was completed, the ship repair yard gave Xingchen another spacecraft maintenance, which was a special maintenance robot to clean the surface and interior of the spacecraft. Even on the surface of the outer shell of the spaceship, these maintenance robots sprayed some kind of liquid. After drying, the spaceship looks very shiny, which is a bit more beautiful. In fact, it doesn't do much. Anyway, if the spaceship travels faster than the speed of light in outer space, the outer shell will return to its original appearance. It's a waste of time. But they didn't ask Xingchen to pay, so Xingchen didn't say anything. After the entire spaceship has been maintained and repaired, Xingdest asked Hua La to drive the spaceship to outer space for a test voyage to see if there are any problems with the various components. Of course, this test flight is just a routine test of the engine, and it has not entered the superluminal flight, otherwise the time spent will not be over in a few hours. While Crash was going to test the spaceship, Stardust talked with the ship repair yard's director of recycled parts about recycling the replaced parts. There are quite a few accessories replaced this time. Although they are all second-hand, some of them are in good condition. Anyway, they can be sold to others after recycling. After checking all the accessories, the supervisor of the pipe recycling calculated a price. Stardust calculated roughly, and the recycling price of accessories this time seems to be 1 or 2 points higher than last time. Of course, this is not much more, but the other party has a little sincerity. The total value of this batch of accessories is about 210,000 rals. After deducting the recovery payment for these parts, Stardust still needs to pay the ship repair yard 587,000 rals. At this moment, Hula has completed the test drive, and the spaceship did not find anything abnormal, so Xingchen counted the money and handed it over to the other party. After completing the repair of the spaceship, Xingchen will go to meet the uncle. The place the uncle mentioned is more than 7,000 kilometers away from the factory where the spacecraft is repaired. But Xingchen drove a spaceship, and he arrived near Mingxinchuan in a short time. The Xinchuan Budokan is outside Mingxinchuan city, next to the edge of a mountain range. And there is a small river flowing by, which is a good place with mountains and water. Xingchen found the location according to the coordinates sent by the uncle. This is the periphery of a large building complex, but the function of this building cannot be seen from the appearance. Xingchen sent another message to the uncle, telling him about his arrival. Within a few minutes, the uncle's reply came. "I'm right below, you can see it when you lower the spaceship." Xingchen lowered the spaceship, and sure enough, he saw the uncle walking out of the building. The open space around this place is not small, and some suspended vehicles are parked in the marked area. There is also an aircraft that looks like a spaceship parked in another area. That aircraft looks much larger than Stardust's spaceship, at least it can hold a hover car. It is said that it is just like a spaceship rather than a spaceship, because the hull of this thing does not look thick, and it cannot travel at the speed of light in the starry sky. In addition, the overall layout of this aircraft is different from that of the common spacecraft. In general spacecraft, the main power engine is relatively large, which will occupy a lot of space in the spacecraft. In addition, the energy tank and other system components will take up a lot of space. Therefore, the space that the entire spaceship can be used to load the suspension vehicle will not be more than half of the entire spaceship. But this aircraft is different, 2/3 of its space can be used for cargo, which is very unreasonable in the design of the spacecraft. With such a design, unless it does not need to fly out of the atmosphere at all, the engine power will not meet the requirements at all, and the energy tank will not be able to fly too far. But what this thing is for, it has nothing to do with Xingchen, he just glanced at it and then ignored it. Since the uncle was waiting, Xingchen naturally quickly landed the spaceship on the ground. There was also a parking space next to the aircraft, and Constellation parked its own spacecraft there. After the spaceship was parked, Stardust descended from the warehouse door to the ground. This time the uncle also came over. The uncle's actions at this time were not in a hurry, and he looked very calm. It was obvious that the spirit beast meat had been delivered on time. "Master, will this be over?" "That's right. I was in a hurry just now, but I finally came back before the meal time, and I didn't miss the time for the dinner. This time I was able to successfully handle this matter, thanks to the spirit beast meat you brought back. You really happened to be lucky this time. It's because my spaceship is small, and I can't transport too many things. Otherwise, it will take a long time to buy and load the goods. I'm afraid it will take 3 or 4 days for the goods to come back. Small spaceship has its advantages. Your goods sell quickly, and you make more trips. Every time the goods are fresh enough. That's true, but I've only shipped the goods twice, and I asked you to wrap them all up. If you don't think it's new, it won't work. Master, I have a lot of goods here, and your little goods are nothing. Let's not talk about this. You said renting a house. What kind of house do you want to rent? You tell me. I have a lot of houses here. I have to find one that meets your requirements. I live alone, Faf, and I brought a few robots with me. I don't need a lot of houses, but my spaceship is troublesome and needs a parking place. It's better to be safe. I only have this valuable item. If it is stolen or damaged, I will lose my job. Your request is not too high. I don't say anything else here. There is absolutely no problem in terms of safety. Petty thieves come here to do things, and they will definitely be beaten and crippled if they can't get out of the gate. This should be. This place is a martial arts gym. The usual training is so hard. If a thief comes here, it is not illegal to beat someone in a clear and proper way. There are quite a few houses here where people can live, but the place where the spaceship can be parked is a bit out of the way. There is a lot of open space in the old staff dormitory near the back mountain. It is no problem to park your spaceship, but it has been a long time there. It's cleaned up, it's probably a bit deserted. Let's take you there to have a look. After finishing speaking, the uncle drove a suspension car over, and then called Xingchen to get on the car. He ejected and drove the car to a speed of hundreds of kilometers per hour. In a few minutes, the uncle and Xingchen arrived at the foot of the mountain 8 kilometers away. Uncle drives this car with a standard, but Xingchen is used to the high speed of the spaceship, but he is still not used to it. But Xingchen was young after all, so he recovered after taking a breath in the car. In front of Xingchen is a stone house. Judging from the weathering of the shape, these houses have been built for some years. However, how many years ago the object is, Xingchen has not done archaeological work here, so it is impossible to estimate it. Not far from these houses, there is a very dense plant forest, and various plants that cannot be named are all over the area. These plants grow extremely vigorously. According to Stardust's estimate, the height of 6 to 7 meters is only considered as the common level among them. Some plants may be as high as 10 meters, but this is nothing. The ones that grow so tall are at best considered to be bamboos, which are not uncommon on Earth. What is more scary is that some plants grow like vines, which are as thick as a bucket. Looking at the distribution of these thick vines among those plants, I am afraid that the area below is full of vines. I really don't know how the plants on this Amaya planet grow so vigorously. The fertility of this land is also too good. Stardust looked at the surrounding environment and was quite satisfied. Although the plants here are too prosperous, it also shows that the air here should be better. Judging from the perception just now, the psionic power is also better than that in the trade area. Stronger. Living in such an environment, there is still a lot of open space around where you can exercise, so I'm afraid it won't be too difficult for you to rush to the ground level. Master, there are quite a lot of open space here, and it is very convenient to park the spaceship. Which house are you talking about? I think these houses are not small. How much is the rent? Well, this is the original instructor's dormitory. Later, the gymnasium was refurbished. The older and retired instructors live here. As the instructor's dormitory, the accommodation conditions can't be bad. There are 7 or 8 rooms in a dormitory. But don't worry, the rent is only 15,000 RAL a month, which is very cheap, right? This price includes the parking fee of the spaceship, so it's not too high, so thank you for taking care of me. It's not a big deal, it's a trivial matter. But you have to do the cleaning yourself. Oh. That's natural. Anyway, there are robots helping to do it, so it's not a big deal to clean up. Well. I just like young people, it's not a big deal to do some work. Grandpa, tell me which house it is. I've memorized the location, and I'll let the robot clean it in a while, otherwise it will be too late to work. The uncle nodded, and then pointed in the direction. Xingchen took a look and was stunned, because the place the uncle pointed to was the plant forest. Master, you made a mistake, it's a plant forest, how can there be any house? I'm not confused yet, how could I remember the wrong location? That's where I said I would rent it out to you. But it hasn't been taken care of for a few days, so there are more plants growing. The uncle said with some dissatisfaction. You call this neglected for some days? Shinchan looked at the plant forest that took up the space in front of him, and was a little speechless. It must have been neglected for some years. Where is there a house here? The whole thing is full of plants, okay? The houses next to it are 5 or 6 meters high, and the ones over there should be about the same. But now there are all kinds of plants growing there, and there is no shadow of a house, let alone living there, and even entering a person is not allowed. Shinchan couldn't believe it, and walked to the plant forest to look inside. Well, through the dense branches and leaves, I can see a small piece of wall, but if I want to get into that room, I'm afraid I have to drill hard through the gaps of various plants. Maybe I can get into that room. Thinking about that situation carefully, isn't this the same as living in a tomb, where the uncle is taking photos of barren hills and wild tombs? Every day when I come out of the house, it's like getting out of a tomb. Thinking of this, Shinchan felt a little cold sweat running down his back. Master, can't people live in this place? Why can't people live in it? Isn't the dormitory next to this place full of instructors? It's just not cleaned up here, otherwise the environment is the same as here, but there are too many and too dense plants here, and it may not be easy to clean them out. Hey! It's just a matter of effort. How about it? I'll give you a better rent. I only charge you 12,000 reals a month. That's enough. Is this a matter of money? This is a matter of being unable to live, okay? Stardust was speechless for a while. But in the final analysis, it is still a matter of money. The rent here is cheap enough. It would cost a lot to find such a large parking place elsewhere. The safety here is also higher, so it is a good choice to live here, but there are too many plants here. Stardust had a headache. We can only try to clean up this matter first. If these plants can be cleaned up, it will be a good place to live. If you really can't clean it up, you can only find another place to live. Seeing that Shinchan nodded and agreed to clean up, the uncle gave Shinchan a small card, which is the key to enter the dormitory. Of course, if you want to enter this dormitory, you have to clean up those plants first. Then Grandpa came back to the building just now with Stardust. When they reached the original building, Shinchan and the uncle got out of the car. The old man turned around and reminded Shinchan, the plants over there are not very easy to clean up, you have to use special tools to clean them. There used to be some special cleaning vehicles in the gymnasium, but later the gymnasium was completely renovated, and the cleaning work was outsourced to others. Those tools have not been used for many years, either sold or damaged and thrown away. You can only go outside to clean up the tools yourself. Shinchan had a headache. He felt that the uncle was taking him for free labor, but the rent given by the uncle was quite cheap. Even though there were a lot of these plants, he still had to try to grow them. Master, you often purchase items and are familiar with this place. Can you tell me which shops sell this kind of tools? Well, when it comes to being familiar with the situation of the shops here, I pat my chest and say number 1. No one is not convinced. The uncle was quite proud when he heard what Shinchan said, so he told Shinchan about the goods sold in the various shops here, even which one has certain kinds of goods, and whose goods are cheaper and more durable. Come. After introducing the situation of the shop, the uncle said again, buying those tools is not easy to transport, and if you buy few, they may not be delivered to them. Go, and you can bring it back directly when you buy something. Grandpa, my car is the fastest and full of motors. It is much faster than your little broken car. It will save you from wasting time and effort on the road. Stardust. I know that my suspension car is relatively broken, so you don't have to say it specifically, sir, it's a bit hurtful, nah. By the way, don't just call me uncle, my name is Pafu, others call me instructor, Pafu, you can call me that too. Instructor? Aren't you in charge of shopping? Why, or an instructor? Who stipulates that the person in charge of purchasing can't be an instructor? My position is very important. The money I save for the gym each year is more than tens of millions. Without me, the gym will not be able to continue to open. MMM. MMM. Master Pafu is the best at purchasing supplies, and the gym cannot do without you. Call me instructor after you've said it all, don't call me uncle anymore. The uncle frowned. Yeah. Got it, Instructor Pafu. After hearing this, the uncle stretched his brows again. In addition, if anyone stops you in the gym, you can report my name and the sign of the dormitory to prove your identity. Understood, Instructor Pafu. The uncle nodded in satisfaction, obviously appreciating Xingchen's attitude very much. Xingchen greeted the two younger brothers, Walla and Dang Dang, and got on the grandfather's suspension car, and drove quickly all the way to the shop introduced by the uncle. I have to say that my uncle's car is really awesome. Although it is not my grandfather's car at the moment, the speed is extremely fast. Even if I am driving with a crash, I still look like I am concentrating on it. Those shops selling tools were 20 to 30 kilometers away from the gymnasium, but there was the uncle's car, and it didn't take long for Xingchen to get there. After getting out of the car, Xingchen left Dang Dang to watch the car, and went into the shop with Walla. When entering the door, a receptionist stepped forward to greet Xingchen. After hearing what kind of tools Xingchen wanted, the receptionist took Xingchen to a sales area full of various special-shaped vehicles. There is a supervisor here who specializes in selling goods. The receptionist brought Xingchen to the supervisor, briefly introduced what Xingchen wanted, and then left. The following matters such as introducing and selling goods were all carried out by the supervisor. The supervisor is a middle-aged strong man. I don't know if doing the work of cleaning plants is really hard work. Anyway, this man looks like a person who does it by himself. Not only is he strong, but his arms are also strong. The appearance of muscles puffed up. Xingchen told the supervisor named Daheng about his own situation. Director Daheng said with a serious face, "Guest, according to the situation you said, the situation is already very serious. I'm afraid the common type household combination cleaning tool you wanted to buy before may not be able to complete this task. Here I recommend you to buy the latest enhanced professional cleaning vehicle, which has multiple cleaning functions and can also transport the cleaned waste to another place, very convenient." I just want to cut off those plants and just throw them somewhere else. You don't need such professional equipment. Guest, you don't know, those grass plants are okay, it's not a big problem to cut them off and let them dry in the sun, but those vines, even if you cut them into many pieces, just throw them aside and leave them alone. It can grow into a new plant every few days. At that time, you will find that there will be more things that need to be removed. This kind of vines can only be cut off, then crushed into pieces with tools, and then mixed with special fermentation bacteria to decompose them into inactive fertilizers. To solve the problem. Really? Is this thing so evil? Guest, we are professional in this aspect. My suggestion is very pertinent. Asking for flowers, the multi-purpose vehicle I recommend to you will definitely meet your needs. And now we are engaging in activities. An enhanced professional cleaning vehicle only costs 83,000 RALs, and you can buy it and use it at home. We also provide a 3-month full warranty service to ensure that you can use the vehicle for these 3 months in Amaya. If you need repairs later, we also provide door-to-door repair services to solve your worries. It sounds reasonable, and the service is quite thoughtful. But why do I feel that this guy just wants to sell me a car? He has a commission, right? Xingchen was a little hesitant. This car is not cheap, he doesn't know how long he can live in Amaya. The monthly rent is only 10,000 lars, if he buys another cleaning car of more than 80,000 yuan, it is not worth it. The supervisor also said, "You bought this car, we can also give you 5 bags of special fermentation bacteria, so that you don't have to pay extra, it's very cost-effective." But the more this person said this, the more Xingchen felt that the price of this car was worthwhile. The price of the car on your side is too high. I've asked a few, and it's not as expensive. Don't fool me. I'll buy it elsewhere. Stardust turned around and pretended to leave. The supervisor became anxious, and immediately grabbed Xingchen and said, "Guest, don't worry, the price can be negotiated. How about this, I will give you a discount, you only need to pay 79,000 rals, you can buy it." Xingchen pretended to hesitate for a while, as if he still wanted to leave. The supervisor gritted his teeth and shouted, 73,000 rals, it can't be lowered, or I will lose money. It would have been better if the price had been quoted earlier. Just turn around and place the price. The price is 10,000 rals lower. One can imagine how low the price of this product is. After ordering this enhanced professional cleaning vehicle, Xingdu took another small cleaning machine. Large areas can be cleared with professional cleaning vehicles, but there are some corners in the yard, and large vehicles cannot get through, so it is more convenient to use small machines. The two tools cost a total of 80,000 lars, and the supervisor gave me 10 bags of fermentation bacteria, 5 bags for each tool. Of course, the energy used by these two tools, Xingchen spent a few yuan from the supervisor, anyway, it is enough for more than 10 days. Xingchen paid the money, and the two tools were loaded into the car. Alright, after buying the tools, let's go back. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. On the way back, it was still running like lightning, and the car had already felt like driving with a splash, and the steering adjustment speed was also done very smoothly, no longer the original cautiousness. When he arrived at the Xinchuan Budokan, Xingchen first sent the cleaning equipment to the plant forest in the dormitory, and left Dang Dang to start working. After Xingchen parked the car, he greeted the uncle, boarded the spaceship, and returned to the dormitory. The dormitory has just started to be cleared, and the large area has not been dealt with, so Xingchen had to park the spaceship in the open space next to it. The ground here is all stone, and it seems to be paved with big stones more than 1 meter square, so it is extremely strong, and there is no problem at all to park the small spaceship. But the location of the stop is close to other people's dormitories at the moment, and we can't stop for too long, otherwise others will definitely comment. Dang Dang is driving that enhanced professional clearing vehicle, and is working hard on the thick vines in the plant forest. Those vines that are nearly as thick as a bucket are not easy to cut, and the power equipment hits the vines, making a very harsh sound. Although the sound does not travel far, the nearby dormitories should still be disturbed. The debris knocked down and pulverized by the cleaning equipment is sprayed from a channel on the car into the waste bin at the rear of the car, but this waste bin is not too big, it is just a variety, and this bin is full of things. At this time, Dang Dang, who was driving the cleaning car, drove the car to the open space beside him, dumped the waste on the ground, and then drove back to deal with the vines. This is not okay. Stardust looked at the various plants in the plant forest. There were too many of these things, and there must be a lot of waste. If they were piled up in the open space here, it would take a few hours to fill the open space. At that time, I'm afraid I have to clean it up by myself. Therefore, it is necessary to find a good place to pile up the waste generated by these cleaning vehicles. I don't know where the martial arts hall used to do this kind of cleaning, and where they put the waste. You have to ask the uncle about this. Thinking of this, Xingchen sent a message to the uncle again, asking where the cleaned-up waste should be placed, and if there are any requirements for this. The uncle replied very quickly, but there was only one sentence waiting and nothing else. This reply is very succinct, but the meaning is not obvious. Does this mean that I should stop doing it first, wait? Before long, the uncle ran over in his suspension car. After getting out of the car, the uncle walked up to Xingchen. You're working very fast here. You've just started working in a short time, and you have brought such a large cleaning vehicle over here. How much area are you planning to clean up? I don't want to buy such a big cleaning truck, but I asked a professional seller, and they said that such thick vines are not easy to deal with, and small tools can't be used at all. Just this big cleaning truck, I just bought it for a while. I don't think this progress is very good. Among these plants, only those vines are more difficult to deal with, and the other plants are not difficult to deal with. It's just that there must be a lot of waste after cleaning. Yeah, just 10 minutes after the start of work, there was a pile of waste as high as a person in the open space over there. If it was cleared for a day or two, the house might be buried with the waste. That's why I asked where to put it. Is there any special area for waste residue? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem to pile it up here. This waste is so old, it must not be piled up here. Fortunately, you asked me, otherwise the waste will have to be cleaned up later. I was just afraid that I would have to clean it up again, so I asked in advance, Sir, you can just write me a letter, why do you make a special trip? I'm afraid you won't be able to find the place. It's a place in the martial arts hall to throw waste, but the terrain is a bit complicated. If I don't take you there, it's likely that you won't be able to touch the place. It's done, sir, just take me to see the way. The layout here is not complicated, and the distance is not difficult for me. I said it all, I will call me instructor in the future, why did I forget? Let's go, get in the car, I'll take you to identify the place. There is a landscape lake in the Budokan. The area is not small, but after the renovation, it is useless and gradually abandoned. Later, it was repaired everywhere plants, they piled all the waste residue in the lake. After all, the uncle took Shinchan into the suspension car, and rushed towards the scenic lake with an acceleration. The lake is not far from the instructor's dormitory here, less than 1 kilometer away. At the speed of the uncle's driving, Shinchan lowered his head to hide from the oncoming air current, and when he raised his head again, he was in the right place. But Shinchan was a little confused, didn't he say to pour the waste into the lake? What about the lake? There is a hill in front of Shinchan, not big, It is about 30 meters high, but the area is not small. Looking at the surrounding area, it is probably the size of 2 or 3 football fields. Master, where is the lake you mentioned? Ah. This is here. The uncle finished speaking and pointed in the direction of the hill. Huh? Stardust was even more puzzled. Am I reading that right? Or is there a different interpretation of the word lake here? Master, isn't this a hill? Why is it a lake? You're not fooling me. Whoever fooled you, this is the original location of the landscape lake. But later, the plants were trimmed and all the waste was poured into the lake. Then the various plants growing in it were too vigorous, and it became like this. Stardust is speechless, this is how much 2.8 waste residue has been piled in, and it can be piled out of the mountain. This piece was originally a lake, but now the plants here are at least 30 meters high, that is, the 10-story building is about the size of 2 football fields. Master, the terrain here is indeed a lake. The soil layer inside is in the shape of a big pit. The deepest part is 8 or 9 meters deep, and the shallower part is also 3 or 4 meters deep. But now it is full of vines. Plants, layer by layer, the thickest vines at the bottom are already more than 1 meter thick. Rhubarb quietly expressed his opinion in Shinchan's mind. Well, the rhubarb has been checked, it must be a lake here, that's right. But in such a terrain, how to dump the waste? Rhubarb confirmed that the terrain here is a lake, but this does not change the fact that the plants have grown into mountains. In such a situation, can those waste residues be poured up again? Grandpa, this side has grown so tall, can we continue to dump the waste? Just pour it up, anyway, no one comes here, it doesn't matter if the pile is higher. It's just that when they dumped the waste in the past, they were lazy and didn't mix any bacteria in the waste. Otherwise, it should be decomposed after piled for so long. Just drop it. Looking at the rhubarb investigation just now, it is not clear whether the workers who trimmed the plants added the fermentation bacteria, but they must have added it in the early stage, otherwise there would not be so much fertilizer under the plants. Since the uncle said to pour it up, let's do it, anyway, this place does not belong to Stardust, even if the pile is higher, it has nothing to do with him. After identifying the place, the uncle brought Zingdust back to the dormitory, tidying up scene. Dang Dang is still busy here, and the waste residue on the open space next to it has piled up a lot. Shinchan hurriedly called a stop, these waste residues are piled up here, and they will have to be transported later. It is better to drag them directly into the lake and dump them on the mountain. pulled into the lake and collapsed on the mountain. Why does this sound so awkward? Stardust asked Walla to take out the suspension vehicle on the spaceship and install it. After a while, when Dang Dang started to use the cleaning vehicle 25 to deal with plants, Walla put the suspension vehicle and the cleaning vehicle together. The waste residue is sprayed directly into the suspension vehicle. In this way, the waste residue is sprayed all over the car, and the waste residue is dumped out, and Dang Dang can continue to work without delaying time. However, Stardust's suspension car is not too big, and the waste can be sprayed to fill a whole car in a short while. In the open space next to it, the uncle has not yet left. Seeing this situation, he immediately decided to lend Shinchan a suspension vehicle. In this way, 2 vehicles will take turns to pick up the waste and then transport it away, so that the efficiency can be maximized. There is no need to dump those waste residues on the open space. Just do what you say. The uncle let Shinchan get into the car and took him all the way to the previous building. There are still a lot of suspension vehicles parked here, 2 of which are similar to the army driven by the uncle. The uncle took out another activation card for the suspension car from the house and handed it to Shinchan, asking him to use it and return it after the plants are almost cleared. Anyway, there are quite a lot of cars here, and this one is not bad. Shinchan thanked the uncle, found the corresponding suspension vehicle, and drove back to the construction site in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry, Dong Dong's car has backed up. In just a while, I'm afraid there will be 2 or 3 more cars on the open space. When I arrived at the cleanup site, I was driving the car with a bang, waiting for the car to be filled with debris. Shinchan waited in the back with this suspension car that was several laps bigger, and as soon as he drove away, his car had to go up to it. This side is waiting for the shift to pick up the waste, and an old man walked out of the dormitory next to him. The old man saw the removal of plants from a distance, probably because he was free, so he came over to watch the excitement. Seeing that Shinchan lived in the dormitory next door, he would probably be a neighbor in the future, so he took the initiative to say hello. Hello, sir. I started working very loudly here. Did it disturb you? Sorry. I'll try to finish as soon as possible. The noise didn't bother me, but why did the Budokan suddenly think of someone to renovate the plants here? We have told the steward many times and nothing happened. Why did you show kindness today? Cleared manually? Ah? I didn't find it from the Budokan. I rented a house from Instructor Pafu. It's in these plant forests, so I have to get rid of all the plants. Shinchan saw that the old man looked a bit disbelieving, and quickly took out the dormitory sign that Pafu had left for him. The old man believed Shinchan's words when he saw that Shinchan really had a sign for entering and leaving the dormitory. You said that it's not good where you live. You have to find a place like this. These plants are not easy to get rid of. The uncle shook his head and complained. I don't want to, but I have a small spaceship, and it's not easy to find a suitable place to live. The rent elsewhere is either too high, or it's not very safe. I'm afraid that something will happen to the spaceship, so I can only rent a dormitory in the Budokan. Gone. Then you are busy. The vines here are particularly difficult, and our dormitories are also a headache. Usually, each of us pays some money to find someone to remove the vines that have grown. The moon must be cleared 2 or 3 times, otherwise it will be difficult to handle when the vines grow thick. But this time, with you standing in front, our side is much more comfortable, at least you won't grow vines on your side. While chatting with the uncle, Shinchan's suspension car was already full of waste. Shinchan quickly greeted the uncle to dump the waste first, and then drove the suspension car to the waste lake. As soon as Shinchan's car left, the small car driven by Walla had already dumped the waste and returned, so it immediately stepped up. Dang Dang drove a professional clearing vehicle, and was busy clearing the vegetation without stopping. After about half an hour of clearing, an area of more than 10 square meters was finally cleared. However, this area, compared to the huge volume of the vegetation, the progress is not very big. Shinchan drove the suspension car very quickly, and in less than a minute, the car drove to the edge of the lake. The uncle said that the waste should be dumped on this plant mountain, so Shinchan drove up to this hill. There is no need to drive the car to the most central location. Stardust stops the car on the hillside and prepares to dump the waste here. This car is also very easy to use, and the rear compartment also has a tipping function. Once Stardust operates the control panel, the rear compartment dumps the waste. Seeing that the waste was finished, Xingchen was about to drive away, but De Huang told him to stop. Master, the activity at the bottom of these vines is very strong, and the activity in one place is concentrated in a small place, as if there is something good. A good thing? The growth of these vines is particularly vigorous, leaving a small section can quickly grow into a large vine. It is indeed very active, but what do you mean by good things? Master, in the interstellar space, some plants or animals absorb or store too much energy. If they are concentrated in a certain position, they will often condense something special. Animals will often form a certain kind of energy. For the crystal nucleus, if it is a plant, it may be some kind of fruit, or it may be some kind of woody core. The things condensed in this way are often of good quality, which can be regarded as relatively good treasures. The value of the things borne by common plants is not low, but if the things condensed by the more precious spiritual plants, some can even buy many planets. Oh, I'm going. Is there such a precious treasure here? Then I'm going to get rich. Master, this kind of vine is probably just a relatively active plant body, and the things it produces are of limited value. It's worthless. What did you tell me to do? Make me happy in vain. Why don't you dump the waste quickly? Xingchen felt a little disappointed, and now he blamed rhubarb a little bit. Master, the limited value does not mean that its price is too low. According to its energy intensity, if it is obtained, hundreds of thousands of rals may be exchanged for it. Hey! Hundreds of thousands of lars, it's still a bit tricky. But don't worry now, let's clean up the dormitory first. I haven't rested for a long time, I have to fix the place to live first. Xingchen got the news that the vines here had produced good products, but he was not in a hurry to take them out. It's not that I'm not in a hurry, the problem is that I can't be in a hurry. For such a large mountain of plants, it is not so easy to get out the fruit or the core from the bottom of it. This has to be planned well. Xingchen didn't care about the vines anymore, he was still driving the hover car, and hurried back to pick up the important position behind Walla. When Xingchen drove back, the small car he was driving was already full of waste, and it was about to overflow. Seeing that Xingchen came back, he drove away with a splash. Xingchen didn't dare to delay, and immediately went up again. This work is so tense, it feels a bit like screwing on the assembly line. The old man who was chatting on the sidelines just now didn't go away. I don't know if he was idle and bored, or these plants have annoyed the old man for a long time. It's more comfortable to let people clear them this time. Anyway, the old man has been standing here watching the stars. Dust they clear the forest of plants. Anyway, there's nothing secret about this job, so others can watch it if they want, and it doesn't cost Xingchen a dime for tea. And from time to time, this uncle chatted with Xingchen a few words, which also made Xingchen not so boring to do this job. During the chat, Xingchen learned that this uncle is also a retired instructor in the martial arts gym, and he has been teaching here all his life. From the initial, common pipe teaching, I worked hard to upgrade until I became a star instructor, and then I retired. This old man's life is quite simple and clear. He will live in one profession forever. But in the past, those who played games like this kind of promotion and salary increase should finally be promoted to a curator or something, and then open some branch libraries and work hard to develop. But this one retired as an instructor, it seems that the standard is average. The old man talked a lot about sex, and he chatted well with Xingchen. In the middle, they also exchanged names with Xingchen, which can be regarded as a formal acquaintance. This old instructor is called Daika, and according to him, the dormitories next to him are all retired instructors like him. Of course, these Xingchen also know, but those people didn't come here today, Xingchen hasn't seen it yet. After half an hour of clearing, Dang Dang opened a passage to go to Xingchen's dormitory. Although there are layers of various plants on both sides of this passage, blocking most of the light of this passage. It looks a bit scary, but Shinchan can go to the door of the dormitory. It's just the entrance of the courtyard, and there are still a lot of various plants growing randomly in the small courtyard of the dormitory. Now it's the turn of the little removal tool, but this thing is a bit small, and it is obviously not easy to operate it with Walla and Dang Dang. This time it is the turn to slip out. Hearing that the Stardust Soldier finally clicked on it, he jumped onto the small clearing machine without hesitation. After a few movements of his hands and feet, the small clearing machine hovered and rushed towards the plants in the yard, and then the machine tool chopped off the branches and stems of the plants. Ye's noise came over. Don't look at how small he is, but he has a lot of energy to work with. Of course, we can't let it run wild. All kinds of plants in this yard are not in a hurry to remove them all. The main thing is to open up a passage to the door. Shinchan asked Rhubarb to explain to Biliu, and then proceeded to clear the plants in other locations with Dang Dang and Walla. The speed of cleaning these plants is not too slow. Shinchan and his younger brothers can transport away a carload of waste in 5 or 6 minutes. However, there are too many of these plants, and I don't know how long they have grown, and the area that the Stardust has cleared can't be seen at all. Silu worked very hard in the yard, and after a while, a small car was full of waste residue. Of course, its small car didn't have much capacity, and they didn't need Shinchan to pick it up, so it flew out when the car was full. Pour it on the car waiting to transport the waste, beside Dang Dang, and then go into the yard to remove the plants. After another hour of intensive clearing, Dang Dang cleared a large area of plant forest, and the road leading to the Stardust dormitory from the outside was much wider. The progress made in the courtyard is not small, and the way to the door of the house has been opened. However, this road is a bit narrow, it looks less than 1 meter wide, and the tall plants on both sides have not been cleared, and it looks darker and more scary than the passage outside. Stardust doesn't care about this. He has lived in junk spaceships more than 100 meters underground, and he is afraid that this little plant will not be able to grow. Shinchan asked the younger brothers to stop for a while. He had to go into the house to see what was broken. If it was completely uninhabitable, he didn't want to spend any more effort to remove the plants. This job was very tiring. Rhubarb can also detect the general condition of the house from the outside, but that is only a rough idea. It seems that things are relatively complete, but they have a taste, or that the appearance of various supplies is good, but their functions are not functional, so he is not big. Can check clearly. So Shinchan still has to go in and see for himself to know if he can live in people. The key on the door of the dormitory still works. I don't know if it was made with a mechanism or a magic circle or other methods. Anyway, I haven't used it for a long time. The door and the key work well together. The key is stuck up. The door opened. Shinchan entered the door and was looking around. The Daika instructor also came in. It seemed that he was really free. Of course, when others came in to have a look, Shinchan didn't care too much, and he didn't hide any naked women, so he was afraid of being seen by others. But the old instructor covered his nose when he came in. The smell in this room is a bit strong, the ventilator is properly adjusted, and the humidity in this room is bad, so things that remove moisture and humidity should not be used. The old instructor walked around the room, explaining clearly which facilities were damaged and which needed to be replaced, without using Shinchan to figure it out on his own. Well, there is an old instructor from Daika who needs to change the purchased items. The arrangements are quite good. Shinchan himself only needs to go and get the medicine according to the prescription. Zingdust asked Da Huan to count all the items in the house that needed to be replaced and purchased, and they had to go to buy them, otherwise they would still have to sleep on the spaceship at night. When you go out to buy, you need to take a suspension vehicle, but the 2 suspension vehicles here are used to move the waste in rotation. If one is missing, the job will not continue. Seeing this situation, the old instructor lent Shinchan a levitation vehicle, which is for the instructor's usual use. Different from the 2 cars on Stardust's side, the old instructor's car is a suspension car for passengers, and there are passenger seats in the front half of the car. Of course, about half of the body in the second half is the cargo compartment, which is comparable to the passenger and cargo pickups on the Earth. Of course, Xingchen was more grateful, but he didn't have anything to thank him at this time, so he had to write it down first, and bought a gift to send back to the country later. But the car is there, but someone needs to drive that big suspension truck. This uncle must not be troublesome. There is no reason for him to work, isn't it? Xingchen saw that Biliu was driving the small cleaning machine very smoothly, so he ordered the soldiers again and asked Biliu to go up and try. This time, there was still no hesitation, and he directly got off the small cleaning machine, got on the big suspension truck, and drove away without any muddy water at all. Huh? This little bark is quite capable, but I didn't notice it when I was doing it. Stardust asked Rhubarb to pass the coordinates of dumping the waste to Si Lu, so as not to let it fall in disorder, so as not to have to clean it up later. Here, Xingchen drove the suspension vehicle of Instructor Daika to go shopping. This time, the place where Xingchen went was not in the same market as the store where he bought cleaning equipment just now. This is a store for various household equipment. That store is in a large machine store, but the two are not too far away. The speed of driving the suspension car was also very fast. Within 20 minutes, Stardust arrived at the place. There are several shops here that sell this equipment, so Xingchen chose the one with the biggest appearance to enter. For a store like this, only those with relatively strong strength will make their fronts very large, because large size means that they will occupy a large area and cost a lot of money. Only those who are willing to spend money can make it big. Naturally, only those with strong strength are willing to spend a lot of money, be the face of the gate. Stardust is not afraid that they will blackmail him when he enters this kind of shop. A whole set of household equipment like this doesn't cost much to buy, and he can't hack much if he wants to. This kind of shop is actually doing long-term business. In some consumables, make money online. There were still reception staff in the store to greet Xingchen, and after hearing Xingchen's intentions, they also took him to the area where these equipment were exclusively sold. There is no replacement service here, but the reception directly introduces the performance and quotation of various equipment to Xingchen. Stardust has various parameters of the household equipment in the dormitory. According to the corresponding parameters, he also selected some suitable special equipment and spare parts for dehumidification and dust removal, ventilation and water exchange. It will cost about $10.9 million and $2,000 to replace a set of things. Xingchen felt that the price was reasonable, so he didn't haggle too much. He just discussed with the receptionist and asked the receptionist to send some consumables as gifts. All these facilities and equipment have been purchased, but some need to be purchased for daily use. Fortunately, this store also has them, but not in this area. The receptionist wrote down the various equipment that Xingchen wanted, and asked the clerk to stock up, and he took Xingchen to pick out various daily necessities. The daily necessities on this planet are relatively simple: a cushion of unknown material, plus a cover that can be used as a bed sheet. Putting these two things on the stone platform in the dormitory is the bed. The body cover is also relatively simple. It is something like a sleeping bag. These Stardusts didn't know much about it, so they randomly picked out the ones of the same length and higher prices. Anyway, the total was only 2,000 or 3,000 rals. On the contrary, the protective clothing Xingdust sold next to this area is more interesting. The protective clothing he is wearing now is brought out from the waste star. There is still a smell. Xingchen already had some money in his pocket at this time, so he naturally wanted to change it. However, I haven't seen any for sale a few days ago, so I haven't changed it. Now I meet a seller of protective clothing, so there is no reason not to buy one and change it. There are many styles of protective clothing sold here, and the grades are divided into several levels: junior high school, advanced. Stardust is now around the 9th human level, so the protective clothing he bought naturally needs to be of the corresponding level. According to Xingchen's request, the receptionist recommended more than a dozen protective clothing with different patterns and styles for Xingchen to choose. Although Xingchen is young in body at the moment, he is a human being in his second life, so he is not young in mind, so he didn't choose any fancy styles, and only chose a relatively solemn dark protective clothing for his daily wear. Of course, this dark color is not the kind of brighter color. The main reason for choosing this color is to resist dirt. This is also Xingchen's past experience. He doesn't have time to wash clothes every day. After picking out these items, Xingchen asked the receptionist to settle the bill. The total cost was more than 40,000 lol, mainly because the price of the protective clothing was relatively high. Of course, the performance of this protective suit is also much stronger than what Stardust is wearing now. Xingchen asked the receptionist to find someone to move all the goods to the suspension vehicle, and then return to the dormitory in a hurry. The main reason for coming back in a hurry is that I want to tidy up the house as soon as possible while the day is still bright, so that people can live in it at night. The old instructor was not at the cleaning site to observe this meeting, probably because Xingchen was not around, and there was no one to chat with him. Xingchen went to his dormitory to unload the goods, and then sent the car back to the old instructor. The old teacher of Daika, Kfa, was staying in his own dormitory. When he came back after seeing Xingchen, he also said something, "You guys are young, and your movements are quick enough. After such a little effort, the job is done." Xingchen naturally said yes, and then thanked the instructor for borrowing the car. After a few pleasantries, Xingchen came out, and Xingchen hurried back to arrange for the younger brothers to install and adjust all kinds of equipment. Whether he can stay in the dormitory to sleep well tonight is up to the younger brothers. At this moment, the younger brothers of Stardust have stopped the work of clearing, clattering the leader, clattering the hands, and passing the tools. Anyway, all the laborers are busy repairing and changing equipment. Xingchen was not idle either. He found a broom for cleaning, and swept all these rooms, and then used a soft cloth of unknown material to wipe the inside of the room again and again. These few rooms have not been lived in for a long time, but the doors and windows are well sealed, and the dust is not too much. After cleaning in this way, the room became a little more lively. About half an hour later, all the equipment in the house that needs to be replaced, cleaned and repaired has been repaired. Xingdust asked Hua La to install energy in the device, and then turned it on. The room felt different at this moment. However, the equipment in the room had to work for a while to adjust the environment in the room, so Xingchen didn't wait in the room, and directly led the younger brothers to continue working. The inside and outside of the courtyard had to be cleared again, otherwise the plants would block the road, and every day when I went out, I had to cut a road with a machete. The day passed like this, and Stardust's little brothers cleared out an area of about 60 square meters. To remove the plants in such a large area, the price was more than 80 cars full of waste residue. But the courtyard is quite open and bright. At least it's not so awkward. At night, Xingchen didn't let the younger brothers continue to clean up the plant forest here, because the noise of cleaning up the plants was quite loud, although the instructors didn't come to reprimand Xingdust. But Xingchen can't be so immoral, disturbing people's dreams at night. Secondly, there are treasures waiting for Stardust to dig in that lake. How can we waste time cleaning these useless things here? Anyway, there are no people living in the hundreds of meters around the lake, so I will secretly dig up some vines this night. Maybe it won't be long before I can dig out that treasure, which is worth hundreds of thousands of lails. I just bought a lot of things, and Law spent a lot of money. If I dig out this treasure and sell it, it can also restore blood. But Xingchen hadn't left for the lake yet, but that Daika instructor came over. It wasn't completely dark yet, but there was light in Xingchen's room. Instructor Daika yelled outside the courtyard, and Xingchen went out when he heard him being called. "Xingchen, today is your first day staying here. It's so late and you haven't prepared a meal yet. Go, I'll treat you to a meal." "Instructor Daika, how dare you do this? I used your car. I'm so grateful that I haven't come yet. How dare I ask you to spend more money? It's not a big deal to use a car. You have been busy all day today, and you have spent a lot of effort to clear the plant forest. This has helped us old guys a lot, and I should treat you to a meal. Let's go, don't dawdle, it's time to grab all the better meals in the canteen." "Huh? You still have to rush to eat in the canteen? You didn't know when you first came here. The canteen here usually has a limited number of spiritual meals. Common meals are enough, but those things are useless for improving strength. They can only be hungry. So if you want to eat spiritual meals, you have to go early. Go grab it. Is it so thrilling to have a meal? Don't you need to do it? That's not the case. The students may be more intense. The instructor's meal is okay. There is no need to fight, but I'm afraid there will be nothing to eat if it's too late. After Instructor Daika finished speaking, he urged Shinchan to hurry up, don't dawdle. Shinchan had no choice but to put down what he wanted to go to the lake in advance. It was getting late in the dormitory and he couldn't leave others, so he couldn't start work. Song asked the younger brothers to take a vacation first. Stardust followed Instructor Daika to the hover car outside the courtyard. The size of this martial arts hall is too large, and the dining hall and dormitory are too far away. If you walk there, you may not be able to grab hot food, so Daika's instructors always drive there. Greeting Shinchan to get into the car, the Instructor Daika accelerated the car and sped up the car. Anyway, the hover car flies very high and will not hit anyone. This speed is not afraid of hurting anyone. A few minutes later, the hover vehicle came to the side of a rather large building. Daika beckoned Stardust to get off the car, and then took the lead into an entrance on the side. Naturally, Shinchan closely followed Instructor Daika. Although he was being treated, he couldn't walk too slowly, making people feel that he was reluctant to come to eat. A basic courtesy. On one side of this entrance is a staircase with a width of 4 or 5 meters. Daika Bento went up the stairs first, and then walked upstairs without stopping. Stardust is no stranger to stairs, but this staircase is too long. The entire staircase probably has 70 or 80 steps, and each step is more than 40 centimeters high. Adding up the steps, this is probably as high as 5 or 6 floors. If the common people go up to the 5th floor in one go, they will definitely not be out of breath, their backs will not be sore, and they will probably be exhausted. Of course, it is impossible to die from exhaustion, but with so many steps, going up every day, don't you feel tired? Shinchan complained in his heart, but he didn't stop walking, and followed Daika to the upstairs. Upstairs, the area here is quite large. The space the size of half a football field is divided into several areas, and each area has a corresponding counter for serving meals. Daika brought Stardust directly to an area with the largest area, where it seemed that people in instructor uniforms were eating. Several people at the counter were already ordering food, and Daika followed at the end of the line. Stardust stood next to Daika. While waiting to order, Shinchan looked up at the introductions and prices of various meals. Just this one glance almost made Shinchan jump up on the spot in fright. Let me go. I saw a zero in the price behind this. Is the spiritual meal so expensive? The introductions and prices of various meals on the counter are marked. There are a total of 17 kinds of spiritual meals here. The price of the year ranges from 10,200 dollars to 10,705 sherils. The most expensive kind still has odd parts. You said you already have more than 3,000 lails, do you still care about the 50 lails? But the spiritual meal, of course, uses a lot of high-value ingredients, and there is a reason for the high price. Shinchan thought so psychologically, but after seeing the spiritual meal brought away by a few people next to him, it's really too dark here. The types of spiritual meals that those people took out were different, but they all came with a small box of spiritual food, about half a caddy less. This is not worth much, such a box is only 10 or 20 rals. In addition, there are 2 side dishes for each spirit meal, which seem to be cooked with spirit beast meat and vegetables. The price of this spiritual meal is probably more expensive than the meat of these spiritual beasts. However, the spirit beast meat used in these 2 side dishes is not much. It seems that the spirit beast meat shared by the 2 dishes does not exceed 4 or 5 taels. I remember that when Shinchan sold the spirit beast meat to the uncle, the price per caddy was not more than $1,000. The half caddy of meat was worth 500 or 600 rals at most, but the price of this spiritual meal could be up to 3,000 rals. I don't know what their price is based on. Could it be that they used more expensive spirit beast meat? No way, Xingchen himself can feel the spirit beast meat on Duo Linxing's side quite clearly. There are really some that are extremely expensive, so Xingchen should have an impression. When Xingchen was pondering, it was already Daika's turn to order and pick up food with him. Daika didn't let Xingchen order by himself, but directly took a meal of more than 1,500 lol and handed it to Xingchen. Then Daika took a $2,000 spiritual meal for himself and found an empty seat to sit down. Xingchen followed suit and sat down on the empty seat here. The cutlery on the dinner plate is relatively simple, just a small two-pronged fork. Stardust doesn't care about this, but Daika treats guests to dinner, and orders a meal of $1,500 for the guest, but takes a meal of $2,000 for himself, which is a bit embarrassing. This invites others to eat. As for the short amount of money, this person is a bit stingy. Xingchen put a small label on Daika in his heart. But then Daika's words blew away Xingchen's small thoughts. Xingchen, if you come here to eat in the future, just order this 1,500 reals. The energy ratio of this meal is the most suitable for you. Spiritual meals at other prices are not suitable for you right now. Strength. Oh? Instructor Daika, is there so much talk about this kind of spiritual meal? The various prices represent different energy components? Well, the Budokan has said it like this. There are so many standards, mainly for students of different strengths, so that everyone can have a suitable meal. So that's the case, but the price of the food here is not low. I'm afraid I can't afford the price of the meal. If you want to be strong, you have to spend money. For example, the usual training, the daily energy ratio of meals, and the learning of various secret skills, but they all cost money. If you spend less, it won't work. Here the annual tuition fee for the trainees is several million reals, plus some other expenses. Several million are needed every year, and these spiritual meals are not worth much anyway. Is it so expensive to study and train here? Xingchen's eyes widened. Stardust has hundreds of thousands of real cash in his pocket, and there are hundreds of thousands of lar treasures waiting to be dug in the lake. He can make a lot of money by transporting goods or something, so he thinks that he is a rich man. People. But this amount of money is really pitifully small compared to the cost of learning martial arts here. Xingchen, who ate this meal, was very depressed. Although he didn't spend his own money on the spiritual meal this time, the information he heard from the instructor Daika made him decide to make more money. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.